I'm sure that anyone who runs a business can relate to your struggles in Maju Wars. Shachibato! President, it's time for battle! Henceforth referred to as Shachibato. You're just starting to get a foothold in the market, developed your premises, you've built a good staff of employees who are committed to you and your business goals, and then, all of a sudden, giant tower of monsters destroys only your business and scatters your staff across a range of monster-filled dungeons. If it were me, I'd consider this not just a setback, but also possibly a sign that this business is not destined to flourish. Your player character, however, thinks this is all just so gosh darn exciting and monster dungeons are a great way to rake in some quick cash. It isn't, though. What it is a great way to get your employees horribly murdered by swarms of evil critters who love hacking up adventurers, possibly even more than you love a healthy balance sheet. Not to worry though, because like any true tycoon, the demise of your employees only puts you back to square one, ready to start again, this time with a little more knowledge and possibly a few quid in the bank. Fail upwards long enough to defend the town from rampaging Maju and rebuild your business. Capitalism, ho! Shachibato is a mixture of light management and visual novel elements alongside the core gameplay of the turn-based strategy dungeon crawls. It's an RPG in only the very loosest sense, but I imagine it will pop up on the radars of a lot of JRPG fans, so it's still worth covering here. You work from your office headquarters, buying upgrades for your team, hiring new units for your fighting roster, and adding passive bonuses to the whole shebang. It's extremely simplistic, but that's not too bad of a thing, since what we want is to get onto the dungeon grid and start bashing monsters in the face. The game operates over a 30-day time frame, wherein you must get your heroes up to tackling the final boss dungeon. Consequently, you must choose what you do on each day extremely carefully, because it will use a day or more to do every single action. Even going to the shop costs you a day that you really want to be using to send your team into the sub-dungeons to search for valuable loot. Every 10 days, the denizens of the underworld decide that they've had enough of the dank.
Oh, but Mo, the dank! The dank!
And they pop up to the surface to rampage your city. This leads to a multi-stage battle wherein you must kill every monster on the map or die trying. And die you will, because to begin with, your little fighting guys simply are not up to the task. Once you've bitten the dust, you get to start again, but with some upgrades to your starting position, so next time you've got a bit more than a cat in hell's chance of coming out victorious. Grind, grind, and grind again is the order of the day then. If that's not your cup of tea, you can bow out now and no one will think any the less of you. But since you've learned something, why not hit the like button so YouTube might show you more videos like this one? Ha 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 ha! I did my call to action thing. That's really super important. A grindy game like this one lives or dies on the strength of its battle system, and Shachibato's combat falls wildly short of the mark. It follows the tried and tested formula of elemental weaknesses. Blue beats red, which beats green, etc. However, beyond this, Shachibato makes some bizarre choices about the gameplay that left me absolutely baffled. Firstly, the decision to not let you undo your move. Most games of this type allow you to move your unit and then reposition in the event that you misclicked or can't hit a target from the new position you thought you would. Shachibato removes this option and locks in your move order as soon as you press on a tile. This is frustrating because the game often requires you to move a great number of spaces in the dungeon to get to an exit or next encounter, thus you are inputting commands quickly to get through your turn. It's easy to make an error, but there's no chance to undo. You do not want to feel like your run was ruined by a misclick in a strategy game. Worse, the game does a poor job of representing which tiles are the base tiles for larger units. Consequently, you can end up stood next to an enemy, but not next to it in an attacking sense. This would be easily rectified with movement undo. My other big gripe with the game is the failure of the game to explain why a particular outcome was the result of your attack. Damage values need to be predictable to a reasonable extent in games like this. Yes, there's often a chance that your attacks could miss or be blocked, but even damage against opposite enemy types can be unexpectedly low, resulting in your squishier units becoming exposed to threats you couldn't predict. This again could be mitigated if you could reliably taunt a threat or crowd control movement, but your characters have a pathetically small number of abilities they can call upon to do this. Until, of course, you have grinded out upgrade upon upgrade, which makes not just the encounters themselves, but playing the game as a whole into a trivial but frustrating procession of attrition. Simply put, the combat in Shachibato is both boring and frustrating until you reach a point where it becomes boring and facile. You may, possibly, enjoy coming to be overpowered against your enemies, but it is only a matter of time until you hit the next roadblock, and then it's back to square one. For a game released in 2021, there's little excuse for this game to be as uninspiring to look at as it is. It's a tie-in with an anime, so the cel-shaded theme makes sense, but the character models and their actions are bland in the extreme. Even if you are drawn to one or other of the character designs, the game forces your hand into using the optimal unlockable unit types, so it's them or bust, unless you want to hit the grind even more than you otherwise would. The whole game feels to me like it was designed to take up the player's time, whilst giving as little as possible in return. This is exacerbated by the ugly, boring environments of the dungeons, which are colour-coded but otherwise interchangeable. This carries on into the sound design too. Music that might otherwise have been fairly light and breezy soon becomes irritating because the experience that goes with it is so limited. Attack sound effects are decent enough. At best, we can probably say that the in-game sounds are unobtrusive, although the voice lines are fairly tedious fare. Background music in games like this is a tough thing to get right when you might be putting untold hours with it as a ever-present. It's not a million miles away from the kind of thing that you might get in a Disgaea title, but you have a constant sense of progression, characters of interest, funny skits, and an ever-expanding roster of units to play with and things to do. Now, not every game of this type can live up to the flagship titles in the genre, but Shachibato really does do a good job of demonstrating how badly things can go wrong when the developers take a broken approach to game design. Whilst Shachibato is hardly the worst game I have played, it does rank amongst those that I have zero desire to ever see running again. Tiresome and Undercooked, Shachibato is not the strategy role-playing title you should be considering unless you have played every other game in your backlog and just want to switch off and mindlessly grind. Hopefully, the anime was better. Thanks very much for watching today's video on Shachibato. President, it's time for battle. I hope very much that you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please comment below. Let me know what you think. Are you enjoying the style of the reviews so far? And so forth. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video, coming soon.